Before we dive into this story, I need to emphasize, the location you are about to see is extremely dangerous due to landmines. I strongly advise against visiting this hill. Vlaštica is a 911 meters high hill in Bosnia and Herzegovina on the very border with Croatia, in the immediate vicinity of Dubrovnik, today's Adriatic tourist mecca. It is a place of turbulent history. For centuries it was the border of civilizations. The border of Dubrovnik Republic and Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. After Turkey comes Austria, and after Austria comes the Second World War. First the Italians, then in October 1944, Vlaštica and surrounding hills are the site of fierce fighting between the partisans and the Wehrmacht. As we can see from the remains of this 36 kilos 149mm Italian shell, manufactured back in 1934 and fired from German positions around Dubrovnik on October 17, 1944. Let me explain. In September 1943, after the capitulation of Italy, the Germans captured all the Italian artillery, including this 149mm howitzer. Then in the early 1990s came the collapse of Yugoslavia and the beginning of the war in Croatia. In October 1991, the Yugoslav army, which was actually completely under Serbian control, began its attack on Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik would be under the siege for almost 7 months. On May 26, 1992, the Yugoslav army retreated towards Montenegro, and the Bosnian Serb army established an artillery reconnaissance post at the very top of Vlaštica. From that moment on, Vlaštica gained strategic importance. Why? Because from the top you can see the wider Dubrovnik area and the parts of the city itself. And from the very foot of Vlaštica, the Bosnian Serb army still holds the main road that connects Dubrovnik with the rest of Croatia at gunpoint. The Croatian army begins a series of offensive operations with the aim of securing the foot of Vlaštica. In early July, the Croatian Air Force will carry out its first combat operation here with the captured MiG-21. On July 13, 1992, the first attack by the Croatian army begins in the direction of the very top. Members of the Bosnian Serb army resist this attack. Okay, now we'll look at the finds I found from the bottom up, so stay tuned. I found this sniper holster left in a very secluded location. It was probably left by the Croatian soldier with the very first days of July of 1992. So what are those? This is the empty iron cast for Yugoslav-made anti-personnel landmine. This one is PMR2A, and it was filled with 100 grams of TNT. The fuse was on this upper corner, which was connected to the tripwire. So when somebody pulled the tripwire, it would activate the fuse, and it would kill with the fragmentation and high explosive. The other one is PMR1A, and it's a smaller one. It was filled with 75 grams of TNT. The mechanism was the same. So you can see that it's pre-notched, so you have 9 rows of the fragments. I found something that took me back in time. When I was 13-year-old kid in a wartime zone, that summer of 1992, we could hear the firing of powerful MRLS multiple rocket launcher system of the Croatian army from a place a few kilometers west of Dubrovnik, from which it was operating precisely on these positions. This is the remnant of the engine of a 122mm rocket. It was an MRLS of Romanian origin that Croatia apparently managed to acquire despite the embargo on arms imports in 1992. Then I find something that took me a long time to figure out what it was. And I believe there is a brutal story behind this finding of mine. So let's start from the beginning. The Yugoslav People's Army had one standardized type of recoilless gun. It was M60 in 82mm caliber, with a specific cartridge that I know what it looks like. The Croatian army had in its possession exactly that type of weapon, seized from the JNI barracks in the fall of 1991. What I found here are the remains of propellant charge for ammunition for the SPG-9 recoilless gun. To be honest, until this moment I didn't even know that the Croatian army even had this recoilless gun. What is most impressive of all is where this cannon was brought. Considering that it weighs about 60 kilograms and knowing the war situation in that July 1992, in essence the matter is almost unbelievable considering the inaccessibility of the terrain, the heat and exposure to the enemy. My assumption is that these were members of the 2nd Guards Brigade of the Croatian army. I don't know if I'm right. Whoever bought this cannon here had big balls. What also points to the Croatian army are the casings from the FAL FN rifle of Argentine production that was used by Croatian soldiers, and they are found in the same position. I forgot to mention that SPG-9 was a weapon of Soviet origin, and I assume it was also acquired somehow despite the arms embargo on Croatia. What I found right next to the gun position made me anxious. So, what is this? These are scissor legs for Mrud mine. The Mrud mine is Yugoslav version of the Claymore mine, which is directional anti-personnel mine. What scares me the most is that sometimes this kind of mines are secured with smaller landmines that are buried into the ground. You can't see them and they tear the foot off very effectively 30 years after the war. After failing to capture Vlaštica by direct attack on the peak in July 1992, the Croatian army continued to scout the terrain for the next few months, looking for the most suitable direction for attack. The capture of Vlaštica would reduce possibility of a direct artillery fire from Bosnian Serb army for the inhabitants of Dubrovnik. That summer of 1992, Serbian artillery would pound Dubrovnik every few days with a few shells, indiscriminately targeting targets and causing civilian casualties. I remember that summer very well. We children would go for a swim, and once a heavy shell fell just a few hundred meters from us, just as we were coming from the sea. Lots of dead fish was floating on the surface of the sea. In the fall of 1992, the Croatian army launched a successful operation to capture the Vlastica massive and managed to control the hill itself and the surrounding area between October 22nd and October 26th, 1992. The Bosnian Serb army lost its strategic position because the road to the city of Trebinje was now open. Here we found a rocket engine from OSA 90mm rocket launcher, fired by the members of Bosnian Serb army at an advancing squad of Croatian army. Pay attention to the terrain where these battles took place. At the very top there is M80 Zoya rocket launcher. Who knows who fired it? There is also a base plate for the M57 60mm motor. This is a part of M63 field telephone with the phonetic alphabet. I will mention once again that this is a real dangerous hill, and the presence of anti-personnel mines as well as unexploded ordnance is real. I do not recommend going here. And this whole story, the most impressive thing for me is the situation with the recoilless gun, and who was so crazy to drag it up there. Feel free to ask whatever interests you, and of course subscribe and support my work.